Now, you saw Twitter, you saw Jason Statham had those choice words for you. He talked about like the idea of CGing you into the McLaren.
Yeah. Ask him about his motion sickness. You know, I don't know if you've noticed, but when he was in the McLaren, he wasn't actually in the McLaren. We had to CG him into the McLaren. One, his arse is too big to get in the seat. And two, he gets very nauseous when we're going rather fast because he's used to driving these big lumbering trucks. So anything over 30 miles an hour, he gets a little nauseous. He gets highly motion sick. So we had to CG The Rock into the McLaren. It's a known fact on set and now to the world.
Oh, we'll ask him about that.
Yeah, your tummy all right? Yeah, your belly okay? Go and have a lie down. 30 miles an hour, have a drink of water. Go on, have a little sleep.
One of my favorite bits you ever did on SNL was this bit you did with Bobby Moynihan where you guys did like a wrestling promo and you got personal with him and
Dude,
you said...
it's my favorite thing we've ever done on Saturday Night Live.
Brilliant. And the reason I want to bring that up to you is when Statham says something like that, is there any truth to motion sickness? Or is that just a pure joke or is he actually bringing things up that are real?
No, it was a pure joke. Yeah, that's why I said, I tweeted you back. I was like, oh, look who has jokes now. This guy has jokes. No, didn't have a problem with that. Not in the McLaren. The problem with the McLaren was it was a real McLaren, and I don't fit in a McLaren to begin with, let alone with two other people.
I have to geek out with you about this shot. It was in the trailer. You know I love filmmaking, but when that slow-mo shot hits your face and there's spit flying out, how do they set that up? Do they give you water so it looks like you're spitting out? Like, how does that shot work?
Well, keep in mind, we were in the rain, and you being a film lover, which I know you are, you'll appreciate this. So that whole final sequence, the epic finale, was our ode and our reverence and respect to Kurosawa. So obviously a very popular filmmaker,
one of the greatest of all time
out of Japan. So we had all the elements: rain, wind, fire, lightning, everything. So the reason why I'm telling you that is I didn't have to put water in my mouth. I mean, it's just literally there's all the water hoses are going at the same time, so it was just already there.
But the slow-mo punches, the way David captures those are amazing.
Yeah, it's a process that I was unsure about for the making of it, for the shooting of it, and you always go, it looks a little goofy. We're sort of doing this in slow motion. We're sort of over-exaggerating, over-egging it, and it never feels natural. It feels very fake. But that said, Dave's always someone that wants to try and go somewhere new and try and do things that just give it a different vibe and a different sort of energy, and rather than just the straight up bang bang bang, let's have a big fight with the bad guy at the end. He wanted to do something in the rain, slow motion,
looks cool,
sound effect. It was definitely driven by Dave. Even to this day, I'm still unsure about my my sheer love for that sequence, but it's just because of the process of making it wasn't great.
So this bit's in the trailer. The Mike Oxmall moment is so funny. I want to know the ones that didn't make it. Like, were there other ones that were tossed around that like were going to be like funny names that he was going to give you?
It was always that. No, it was always Mike Oxmall. And when I read that, I laughed so hard. And the scene was just hard to get through, by the way, because you're saying that, and it was just, and the audience loves it. It was just so funny.
Now, obviously, there's a great moment in this film where you guys share an F-bomb, and in 13, you only get to say it one time. Now, that was pretty cool. So they kind of, did you guys decide, okay, we're going to give it to both of them? How was that decision process?
Well, everything, there had to be some parity with us, and everything was pretty much even. So we just tried to figure out, well, what's the best, most creative, most fun for the audience way to say an F word in it.
You and Rock split it. Do you know when you're saying it that you're getting the one F-bomb together?
Yeah, we consciously said, listen, how do we integrate the F-bomb? So at that time, it was the perfect way that we could both say it. Hobbs and Shaw both get to...
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, with the action in this film, David does a great job of choreographing things because you're in the middle of sequences, and he comes from a stunt background. So I was curious what it was like for you to film action scenes with someone like David Leitch, who kind of really wants you in long takes of action choreographing, and comparing that to kind of being in the ring. Did it remind you at all about almost like being in the ring and being live, having those takes?
Very long takes. So obviously in the ring, I could go for an hour where there is obviously no cuts, and it's just one continuous match. But working with David was a great experience. He does come from the world of action. But what's interesting about David is, number one, he's very hungry. He's a very hungry and unique director, and he's ambitious. And he wants to create shots that have movement, but also have style.
Yeah.
And it's a as he continues to lay his style and foundation amongst Hollywood and of his movies, like you could tell there's a sensibility to his style that's very David Leitch.
Yeah.
Right? You see it in Hobbs and Shaw, you see it in Deadpool, you see it in John Wick, and
Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde, too,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's a style to David's work, but also he feels strongly, which I really appreciate this about him, is that the characters will inform the action.
Yeah.
So once we create the characters, and the character of Hobbs, the character of Shaw, Idris's character, Vanessa's too as well, once we have an understanding of who these characters are and who these human beings are, that will inform their action. Compared to the other way around,
Yeah.
where it's action for the sake of action and it's written on the page, and the character will do it. This way, the character informs the action, which, by the way, what you see in Hobbs and Shaw, this is why, yes, we're a spin-off from Fast and Furious, and so the pressure's on to make it work, but also that approach of having our characters inform the action created our own identity, our own unique identity
fascinating.
within the Fast and Furious world.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, I love that line when you said you can learn a lot about someone from fighting them. That was a great
Yeah,
line. It really
thank
was.
you.
Dude, they're wrapping me up, man. Thank you so much.
Always a
Good to see
pleasure,
you.
man.
You gotta do- When you're taking that guy and putting his face up against the scanner over and over and over again,
Yeah.
is that a real stunt guy that just has to take those hits, or is it
It's a dozen of them.
Is it padded?
It's not that padded, no. It's a gel, which is like it's like a high impact gel that's like a pad. So the face has to sort of crush the nose.
Did you feel bad
I
about?
felt awful. That's the worst. The worst thing about it is my favourite people on any set are the stunt guys.
Right.
And they always have been for ever since I got into the movie business. The stuntmen I have an affinity with because I know the risks they take to make other people look good.
Yeah.
And they don't get the accolades, they don't get the representation, they don't get anything back. They just do it for other people and they put themselves in harm's way, and they're an incredible bunch of people. So if I have to smash their heads against a wall, I get very, very upset about it.
Yeah. Well, it's a great scene.
And you get Dave going, no, they know what they're doing. Hit it harder.
And David's a
you
stunt
ready?
guy.
One more, bro. Yeah, it's not my favourite day.
When you're running down that building carrying Vanessa's character, how is that being shot? I mean, I know there's a lot of CG involved,
Yeah.
and David's like a genius choreography director, but what is it like for you on set when you do that scene?
It was, well, I had to carry Nu. We call her Nu. That's her nickname. I had to carry Nu on my shoulders in a harness type thing. And instead of running down, we're running towards camera.
Oh, and they angle it.
And they angle it in a certain way so it looks like we're running down. And then they shot some of the vertical stuff on a real building just to get the real sort of sense of what would happen. But it was work. Trust me.
I know you've talked about this line a lot. The Black Superman line's amazing. I know you've said you improvised it. I've seen interviews with The Rock said he wrote the line.
He didn't write the line.
I know.
He did not write the line.
You improvised it, but
I
I'm
did.
curious what else you were saying. What was in the script at that moment? Because you improvised it. What else
Yeah,
did you say
well,
there?
I mean, in the scene in the film, my character's in a maniacal state of doing a long, big bad man speech, and at the end of it, he decides to let his ego really let rip and just say, "I'm Black Superman," or maybe that was my ego. But in any case, David had allowed us to just have fun and take liberties with the script sometimes. Chris Morgan as well, the writer, allowed us to let our characters feel what they would do naturally.
I love that I love that you're a musician in real life. And I also love that this movie is amazing because the character you play is, in my opinion, there's a sympathetic element to him, and I felt for him, especially towards the end.
Oh, really? Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you about, do you build in what music your characters listen to? Do you know what kind of music he likes?
No, he doesn't have any musical taste whatsoever. He is literally a walking toaster
Yeah.
that's burning the whole time. But I personally, music on set's pretty important, or in my trailer, just to reset my brain a little bit, center me. When you've got your favorite playlist, it's a good way to anchor
Yeah.
to where you are. Because, I work in the film industry and it's all make-believe the whole time. You're doing that for 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day. You just want to remind yourself where you are sometimes. So playing music is really important. luckily this year, you know, I managed to make a song that was in the film.
Cypress Hill.
With Cypress Hill, and I'm like mad psyched about it. And again, you know, I was watching the film for the first time in the premiere, and the song came on, and I had a little robotic tear.
Yeah. But you say you're a bad guy in the film. Do you think he actually thinks he's a bad guy? He says, okay, see.
I think it's a great question. He is a mercenary that's doing a job.
Exactly.
And the voice that you hear in the box is his boss. And essentially the boss that has the real, you know, sort of maniacal vision of what Ethion is trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Why I'm going for the virus, why we need to get it back. My job is to go get it. And to be honest, he's kind of like he's like a converted person that's like really believes in who he works for.
Right.
But I don't believe he thinks he's a bad guy.
I don't think so. Last thing for you, I think that you're a great director. And I think with
man,
Yardi,
thank you.
I mean, like to me, like the idea of you directing, I'm curious how that changed you as an actor. So you directed Yardi, and now you're in this after that movie.
Yeah.
How did you change as an actor from making that movie?
I definitely was more receptive to the process. You know, actors typically come in, you know, whenever they stroll in, cup of coffee, slippers on their feet, do their lines and go back to their trailers, but don't realize that there's, 16,000 other reasons why this film is being made the way it is. And I definitely became more sensitive to what a director might be going through. I was always willing to give more takes if a director wants one, but now I really understand why. Because when you get into the edit, you really want the choices, and also you want to be able to give a director the colors that he can use, you know.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask you, there's an amazing shot in the trailer, it's in the movie too, where you and Jason are spinning in that like moving vehicle in midair. When they shoot that on set, do they actually spin you on a rig? Because you look like you're like actually like in air. Do you really do that on set?
Yeah, they do it. They build this whole contraption on a stage where they literally pick up a car and like dangle you with the car.
That's amazing.
I know, it's like a weird
Your
ride.
shoes out the window or something like that.
shoes.
Yeah.
I was like, okay guys, all the blurs, get on my feet. But yeah, it's kind of, but it's odd because when that happens, it's just like another day on set. So you stop realizing how crazy it is, and then sometimes when you see it back, you're like, oh my god. Like, that's nuts. Like, that whole thing's nuts.
David's amazing. I love there's a line in the film where you and The Rock have a fight sequence, and Rock says you can learn a lot about someone when you fight them. I was curious, what did you learn about Dwayne Johnson by fake fighting him?
Well, he didn't fight me back, so...
Right, yeah, but like...
That's how it told me everything. I was like, come on! Yeah.
But like in general, when you're across from someone, not the character, but just Dwayne Johnson in general, when you're fake fighting him, do you learn about him as an actor more?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, as characters, I mean, David always said that, and Greg Fermenter, who's the fight director, who's also awesome. They've done Atomic Blonde and everything together. You know, it's always really important that everyone had their own style. And also, like, realistically thinking about me fighting those guys or anyone. Like, A, it's completely implausible in real life. And B, I was like, you know, we had to develop moves because, like, me doing a punch, we quickly realized in training that it was, like, feeble as hell. So we had to, like, do a lot of elbows. And we also had to, like, use things, car batteries that were randomly on the street, or, like, bin bags and various other, like, helmets.
You'll do, like, leg choke holds.
Lots of legs.
Those were all, like, the one in the trailer they show where you grab that guy when you're on the table. Were those hard to pull off?
Yes, and also, like, you have to do it again and again and again and again, and you have to get it right. And then, but as you keep going, you get progressively more tired. So sometimes the takes, you're just like, you'll take number 10, you're like, oh, it's just gonna get worse from here, man. It's like you're aching, but also like you're with these guys that are the best in the world at what they do. So you just be like, I can't let you down. And like, I'm a real perfectionist, so it was a struggle for me all the time because I didn't have long enough to train. And I was doing a play at the time, so I didn't have like the full 10 hours. I'd do like 6 hours a day, just trying to, and I wanted to do it perfectly. And it was just like, and I also really wanted to do, I said to David and Greg, like, I want to do everything that I can. I don't want it to be stunt doubles, so I want it to be me. And so it was like really physically tough. Yeah, you ache all over the whole time. You have to pretend you're okay.
What do they do when you like blow back from an action sequence? Like when that glass explodes and like you literally blow back. Do they put a wind machine on you? Do they yank you with a wire?
They put a wind machine at the front, and they have a harness around your body, which obviously the clothes are all like cut and fitted around. Cool. And then they yank you back. They count down as you walk, and then they literally will yank you back, and then you go onto like a crash mat. And so your neck is like, you get major whiplash. You're like, I'm fine. And you have to do it like 20 times.
Yeah. If you could see her somehow walk into an episode of The Crown, what do you think she would do with?
God,
I mean, I know that's
no,
fiction
so
and
true.
non-fiction, but what would she do?
I think she'd have a drink with Margaret, to be honest.
Can we get this scene? Can David shoot
I know,
this?
I can imagine it. And actually, when I was doing it, I kept being like, God, Margaret would have loved to have done this stuff.
You imagine
She'd have
her in a
loved
Fast and
him.
Furious movie?
Oh my God, can you imagine? And like the top of a car, like coming out the roof, being like, well, she'd be awesome.
Now that would be funny if
Yeah.
if you played that character and then Helen played the Queen.
I know.
And then that was the Fast and
That's a
Furious
whole
universe.
other movie you've just created.
Guys,
That like could be better than both of The Crown and it could be a
I'll direct.
fusion. Can you? Okay, it started here.
it's literally
This
on
is
video.
where it began.
This is
We've
an
got it.
actual contract. We're doing. No, awesome,
This is
awesome,
a-
awesome.
Babe, you're
talking.
the best.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Really
too.
great
No,
talking.
no,
Great job
seriously.
in the movie, seriously.
Oh, no.
We meet your character in the beginning, towards the third act of the film. We don't know a ton about the background of his life. I'm curious how much you build into him. Like, do you build in like his childhood? Like, I mean, I know it's kind of like it's an action movie, but there's still a lot of emotional elements happening here. How much do you know about his life prior to us meeting him?
Well, I think that's kind of the cool part of it is that there are a lot of questions and there is a lot of backstory and
Even still now, we
yeah,
haven't
even
answered all
still
those
now,
questions.
like,
yeah.
and it was cool because on that first day when you were interacting with Dwayne, I could see Cliff really just trying to build some history in his mind and get a figure for all of us. You know, we all look a little bit different.
Yeah,
we
we got
all
all
have
these
different
weird accents from all over the
So we
place,
had
like-
we had a lot of questions for Mama. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? What
It's like,
Mama?
what's
Yeah,
going
she was a
on?
Rolling Stone or
Right,
something.
like-
Yeah, she made some moves back in the day.
So we're in Samoa now, but did we always live there? We
Yeah.
were born other places. There's a lot about the family that has yet to be explored.
What
and-
would
and
be
discovered.
the Hobbs WrestleMania? How would that go down if the Hobbs hosted
Man,
a
I'd be
WrestleMania?
carrying the
talking,
water and the
man.
towels.
It's a big event, so we're gonna need more out of you from there. He's a big player right here, so we need him to be in the game for sure. I would obviously think it would have to be some sort of a team, you know,
Yeah.
a 6-man, a 8-man of some sort.
that would be
a 10-man.
fun.
There's 5 brothers.
That would be fun.
Five Hobbs
Yeah,
brothers.
5 in total.
A 10-man tag for sure. I don't know if there's any other humans in the world that want to step up to that team,
Yeah.
but we'll have to make it happen.
I would
for
pay
the fans.
$1,000 to watch that happen.
There we go.
I'm curious about choreographing wrestling matches versus movies. In regards to like when you're in the ring and you've choreographed a fight and you choreograph a movie, how different is that approach for you?
So different, man. It's
How is it
so
different?
much
Because
different.
you're playing to a crowd.
But you're playing to a crowd. You only have one take. You know, it is live. So and you don't. To me, if I go out there choreographed, then I'm choreographed. I have to have instincts. I have to be able to use, you know, the experience that I have, you know, the things that I learned along the way, and just let my body do its thing. Because if I go out there with A, B, C, D, that's what you're gonna get. And sometimes in between A and B, you find some magic. So you want to get off of that course and just start to let that journey develop on its own and let the story kind of tell itself. But yeah, you know, obviously different events, different pay-per-views, different matches, different moments. But
No, I was going to say that we did get to do a bit of that while we were filming.
that was what
Like
was
David
so cool.
kept
And
it a bit loose.
David, yeah,
Chris
Greg,
Morgan, the writer, was there as well.
felt like
and
being in the
mixed
ring
things.
a
It was
little
very
bit almost.
dynamic.
Yeah, well, you know, obviously a little different because it was a different playing field, a different ring that we were in. But just the respect, you know, David having, you know, with me and my experience of what I do, to be able to allow us to have our own styles. It
Look
was really
good, right?
cool how just the
Amazing.
collaboration.
Do you wanna, like,
I like
Take
the
that on?
I like that screaming shot with you and the
Wanna
Rock
take that
together.